Mount Cultus Haystack in Skagit County. If you've driven I-5 northbound past Mount Vernon, it's the fuck off huge hill to your right. Well, if you're interested, I was about 10 at the time. Have 3-level terraced property 4 or so miles outside of town in the middle of the woods on 5 acres. Dad essentially clear-cut everything back in 1999 to 2000 and built a barn and a house on it. Isolated, but with enough space between neighbors that the most you can see is a roof at the right angle. Had Mum's breeding stallion in Carroll on our property in the Carroll since it's the dead of summer and she didn't want him down with the mares in the barn. There's an access road leading up to the top portion of the property, but my mum divorced my dad and everything has gotten overgrown. Ferns and blackberry bushes fucking everywhere. Mother has become a drunkard at this point after my dad was fundamentally out of the picture, and orders me to go up and feed us in bed when it gets dark one night. That's what she named it. I take Tug, my black lab, up there. I apologize for the pic-related. I'm 3 beers deep and it's been a long day. We take the trail after I grab a few flakes of hay from the barn, right to left arrow, out to the Carroll, and it's just about twilight. Circle. Alfalfa for dinner. I toss the food in, and I'm about ready to head back down for grain when I notice that the horse is completely ignoring his food. He's staring up towards the upper property, bottom to top arrow, ears perked and completely motionless. If you've ever gone camping, or trail riding, with a horse, you don't ignore when he or she becomes alert, or starts becoming skittish, especially if it has a good temperament like ours did. Tug is staring too. I look up to see the underbrush is moving at the very top of our property line. It's moving towards us, cunt. Tug was probably the best dog I've ever had, and my best friend. What was coming down the hillside sounded fucking enormous, as if it were a bear or a bull elk. We've had a few black bears and a few elk eat from our apple trees over the years, bastards. Ferns and blackberry bushes are being shoved out of the way with considerable force. Tug's hackles are on end, and he moves in front of me. I've just about pissed my pants watching this thing come down the hill, whatever it was. It's close now, almost to the road where the underbrush ends. My dog is getting ready to lunge at it, and the horse is running around the Carroll about ready to break through. It finally hits the end of the brush. Nothing, absolutely fucking nothing. I'll never forget how my dog stopped right in the middle of a bark when the commotion stopped and it disappeared. It was almost comical. Jessie, which was our Burmese mix, came lumbering up the trail just as confused. The 2 dogs checked it out for about 5 minutes and stuck close to me when I went back down to the house. That was the very first thing that happened at that property that I can remember. Yes, did I mention there's an insane asylum in my hometown? One of the first places they practice phlebotomy is yuck. This one is a long one. I have to walk down to the bus stop just about every day. It's usually 6:30 that I walk down to not miss the bus and avoid the wrath of Mummy Dearest. Holy fuck, is it dark at 6:30 during winter. There is deep forest all around my small community, and it's pretty thick, as is common with most of Westernmoor. Much of pic-related is recent development, and we were much less crowded on that hill. I would leave the gate and be fine with my flashlight until I reached threshold 1. Between here and threshold 2 things would be fucking weird. Sure, animals would occasionally cross the road, and you might even see a deer once a month during the day. This was every single morning, without fail, and in different intensities. I would hear shit all around me, and it would follow me to point 2 and beyond. Anything that followed me past point 3 was usually a really bad day. I'll give an example here in a second. Side note, to my fucking horror, when it got lighter earlier would turn out to be shapes moving between trees that I refused to look at after the first time. No, I don't know what they were. Anything between point 1 and point 2 wouldn't touch the road, but never got close to me, and made a hell of a racket, but stayed away from houses, occupied or not. For some reason they never followed me back to the house, except for one which I'm getting to. When I come home they were never there, but I never felt safe unless someone else or the dogs were with me. Some days I'd hear voices, others they would just follow me. I know it sounds like I have some sort of schizophrenia, but I've been to multiple docs several times about this shit cause it was driving me up the wall. Added most is what they said. One morning, after hanging out with my friends at the barns, I was walking down. Nothing, everything is silent. Count the barns, or the farming portion of Western State Mental Institution which made itself sustaining, next to a mass grave of at least 2,000 bodies. Not even joking, the forest is dead fucking quiet that morning. I have a LED flashlight that I usually leave off until I hit point 2. Let me be clear that I am not making any of this up. This is not something I joke about. A Douglas fir tree is at the exact midpoint between 1 and 2. It is overhanging the corner that bends around it. All I can see is 2 long, black legs behind the branches. Have you ever seen that black? That's how black they were. Want to know how I knew they were legs? They moved. I fucking cheesed it back to the house and called my mom and said it was a bear. Didn't go to school. It happened 3 more days in a row, and finally she made me walk down by myself and wouldn't let me back into the house one morning. He was still there, at the same spot he had been every day prior. I walked right by the son of a bitch with my eyes closed. This motherfucker was huge, like 10 feet tall, shadow figure big. This asshole weeping angels me all the goddamn way down to point 4, which, bear in mind, has dogs. Every time I look behind me I can see some sort of him hiding behind some sort of foliage. My safe haven becomes the dogs and the bus stop. I could always feel whatever he was looking at me. Even when I got to the bus stop. I told my mother, who was a devout Christian. Also she said, "You're making excuses to not go to school. You're just like your father." Suddenly, the figure disappears after a couple weeks of this. Come.